Hello viewers, Super GT here. Welcome back to yet some more league racing on Gran Turismo Sport. This has been really good fun in the last couple of weeks, I'm sure you'll agree if you've seen the previous videos. Now we arrive at round 3, you can see here just how close the practice was. 5 of us within 3/10. I cross the line, go a 10th quicker, and I'm still in 5th and just over a 10th away from the lead. So judging by that evidence, this round was going to be extremely close indeed. This was the pre-race practice session. Yes, there were multiple practice sessions we ran for this. And I was in 6th place, as per usual, I guess. A quarter of a second down. So again, just giving you a flavour of how close this round was going to be. So let's jump into the 10-minute qualifying session then, before the 20-minute race. So we have a fair amount of time here to try to set our best lap. It's the lap time roughly, well, just under 1 minute and a half, so you have quite a lot of time here. Now this is the Clubhouse Esports Championship for those who haven't watched the previous ones. It's been a really good championship so far, and I actually think that league racing is perhaps the way forward on Gran Turismo Sport. Given that the daily races and that kind of thing are in a bit of a state, and I was going to say the penalty system is in a bit of a state, but I think that would be an understatement. You could describe it in far worse terms than that. I can't wait for the FIA to come back, but league racing's been really good fun, and I hope that if you watched the previous videos on this series then you will have enjoyed it. But I know that you'll enjoy this race because this one was a really good one. And I'm going to split this round, which is normally 2 races, and I normally put the 2 races into one video, but I'm going to put it into 2 separate videos because the races were that good. So coming around the sector last corner, coming up towards the final one, difficult corner this. I mean, to be fair, it's quite a difficult circuit, it's quite a technical one. Running the grass on the exit to allow us to get on the power a little bit earlier, doesn't really slow you down going on the grass. And then across the line we go to set to 24.7. And with that I was rather pleased because that was about the same as I managed in practice. And therefore being able to replicate my best practice lap in qualifying, I think is quite a good achievement. Roswald goes slightly quicker, about a 10th faster, and puts himself on pole, provisional pole, and therefore I move down into 2nd. We still have 5 minutes 20 within which to try to improve our lap time, and that's exactly what we're going to try and do. Sitting at the moment in 3rd place in this championship, courtesy really of a very good round 1. Round 2 in the rain didn't quite go as well as I would have liked, but we're going to try and make amends here at round number 3. Sardegna first up here. Go purple in the first sector, so things going rather swimmingly in the first part of this lap. Coming down into this hairpin, it's not really a hairpin but kind of feels like one, up the hill, running a bit of the gravel before we hit that curb. We are still purple by more than a 10th here, but we can hook up this final sector. We should be on pole, but we'll see. With this long left, you can take this one flat out if you nail the entry point, just about, get that right, and then into the final corner. Very difficult because there's no real markers to guide you into that one. And, well, let's see then. It's a long run down to the finish line actually. Let's see what the result is. It's 24.4, so that's, well, quarter of a second quicker than my previous lap, and it's quarter of a second quicker than I've managed in any lap, in any of the practice sessions I've done. Now this lap, a little bit later, was nowhere near as good. I knew it was going to be slow. I didn't want to give Roswald the toe. Slowed right down. We finished the session. And, well, we finished the session on provisional pole. There are still cars running though. Hopefully none of them go any quicker, and we will have secured our first pole position of the series. But that happened. Last second Nathan jumps in, just pips us with 0.3, goes a 10th faster. Very disappointing to not secure our first pole position, but that is motorsport, things happen, and there are the standings. You see they're very, very close indeed, and as the practice suggested, it was going to be a close one, and that was the case. Let's see if the race is going to be as close. 20 minutes off Sardegna, lights are out now. Let's move. Let's see what we can do then. 20 minutes, sorry. I don't know how many laps that is. We'll see. Main thing for now, heading towards turn 1, decide, am I going to stay on the inside line or go to the outside? I'm going to go to the outside. It's not really to try to take the position, it's more just to keep second. Because if I stay behind, then there's a chance that someone can go around my outside. And, well, we've achieved that. We stay in second and just try to ease into this race. Now, you may well remember the first round, which happened at Blue Moon Bay. It was actually a very similar scenario with Nathan in the lead, myself in second. And strategically, I perhaps played that race a little bit wrong. I was a little bit too aggressive, just went for it. And sometimes that's good fun. Sometimes it doesn't net you the result you might want. So here we're going to be a bit more savvy with the strategy, I would say, and try to play the longer game and not necessarily go all out guns blazing, turn 1, turn 2, lap 1, you know. We're going to play a little bit longer here. So the main thing, main strategy of course, is just to make sure we don't lose the toe. Now this main straight, which is about to come up, is very long, and it does lead into probably the best overtaking opportunity on this lap. There are actually quite a few overtaking opportunities on this lap. It's not a track, let's say like Brands Hatch, which is very difficult to overtake on. This one, there's definitely room for overtakes. Now Marky Boy in third, just dropping off slightly, as you can see, as we look behind. I'm not sure if he's in our toe actually. Might be just on the fringes of it. So lap 1 complete, and I'd say that's a pretty successful lap to complete the lap, still where we started, without crashing, without dying, and still on the tarmac. Always good if you can tick off all of those things I've just mentioned. Right, so now it's just a continuation of that. Continue to not die, continue to stay on the tarmac, continue to stay in the slipstream, and churn out some laps, as we always say. Churn out the laps, first part of the race, then you can do all your fighting a little bit later on. So the main thing now is just maybe to try to pull away from the guys behind. You see it just lifting off the power slightly at times, just to make sure I'm not too close to him, going into the braking zones. The last thing I want really is for him to start going defensive. Marky Boy very wide, just behind us. We look in the rearview mirror, so to speak. And you see that the gap opens up slightly. Ruswald in 4th. Ruswald's definitely someone to look out for, as he's been consistently up there in every race in this season so far. So absolutely must not be discounted, even if we do begin to pull away, which we are at this point in time. Setting the fastest lap there. In the toe, admittedly, but it's still something. On to lap number 3. So things have gone rather well. We're going to move to the end of lap number 3. And you can see the state of play here. So Nathan managed to pull away from me slightly on that lap. But you can see, as I get a really good exit actually from the final corner and the toe, you see how much of a benefit that gives me. As we cross the line, I'm going to just take the lead on the outside. Now I'm in a bit of a precarious position here. I am ahead, but I'm on the outside. I do just enough of a job on the straight to manage to get ahead before we even get into the corner. So now into the lead of the race. So things are a little bit different here. And he's going to be putting the pressure on right behind us. I'm just going to take the racing line. Not feel too pressured. There's no point in really thinking too much about it at this point. We've still got 15 minutes. We've only done a quarter of the race. So all I've got to do really is just take my racing line, take the lines I know I'm going to take. No point in defending at this early phase, not especially through this middle sector. This is where you're going to lose time if you start defending. So we're just going to stick to the racing line. He's very close. You can see that on the radar, bottom right of the screen. Pretty much nose to tail, but I'm not going to let that phase me at this point. Just going to stick to our guns, stick to our braking points, and ideally not make any crucial mistakes. Actually, I think Nathan made a bit of a mistake there through that long left. Quite an awkward corner. To be fair, this track has a fair few awkward corners. For example, all of them. And the final corner there, very easy to get wrong. As we said earlier, just no real references going in to that corner. So you're kind of making it up as you go along every time. And well, that's kind of what I do all the time, really, to be honest. Into turn 1, lap number 5. Things going rather well, but still 14 minutes left to go. Things can very much change. So we're playing this one rather well strategically, moving into the lead, but just keeping our cool, not making any mistakes thing you have to be conscious here of is any defending that you start doing brings more players into the game. You just know that the guy in third, despite being a little bit off in terms of the gap, is no doubt just trying to get his head down and try to pull in the laps and try to make that gap a little bit smaller. So at this point, I'd say maybe just over a second between second and third, and we want to keep it that way. Ideally, you want to go into the final lap on your own in a one-man battle. Second best scenario is that it's just a two-horse race on the final lap. The last thing you want is to invite more players into that fight, because it just lessens your chance of winning. So if that third player gets in, then well, it just means chances of winning are more like 33% rather than a 50-50. Right, on to the main straight then, and boom, look at that, nose to tail as we go down the straight. Is he going to work with me, or is he going to go for this move? It looks like he's going to go. Well, he's going to go for the move on the outside, and this was a little bit frustrating to me because I felt like well, I had to take a different line, therefore I was going to slow us both down, and all this means is that the guy in third is just going to start catching us every time that gets done. Every time we go side by side into a corner, then well, we're going slower than we could be. But gap is still there. He's still not in the tow. Is the guy in third, so we don't have to worry just yet. But with 12 minutes left, there's still plenty of time for that to change. Sitting in the lead then, the race is rather spread out, as you can see, and the usual suspects, that you could say, in this series so far, 1, 2 and 3, although I'm not normally in position 1, admittedly, I'm normally in position 3, but as we said earlier, we're trying to go one better. We're trying to do better than before, try to up our game, try to win a race. Annoyingly, we didn't manage to secure that pole position. To be honest, I think it was a good performance in qualifying, but Nathan proving again that he's probably the fastest person in this league by just nailing that qualifying lap and put it on pole position. So we go down the straight once again. He's got a bit more of a gap, and therefore he'll have more of a slingshot. He is going to pull out to the right hand side as we head down towards turn 1, and as we head down towards turn 1, he's fully alongside, in fact a little bit more. Going through the corner, oof, rough contact through the corner. I was going to be aggressive, and I knew that in this race, coming into this race, I knew that I had to be more aggressive to make sure that, well, because sometimes I felt as though I was taking it a little bit too easy and giving people too much space, giving people too much of an easy time. But I felt like, actually in this one, I'm going to be a bit more aggressive and just hold my position a bit more firmly, and that's exactly what we did. So the gap actually opened up quite a bit there, and well, that's a good thing. If we can get onto the main straight with more than 3/4 of a second, then we're laughing, because they're not in the tow anymore. But that is the main. Oh, actually a big slide into this double left, and in fact I don't think that gap is going to be more than 3/4 of a second. But you can see Roswald in third has caught us courtesy of this fighting over the last couple of laps. And as we enter main straight for the end of lap number 7, the timer goes down to 10 minutes. For this race is pretty much going to be 14 laps, you'd imagine, based on 7 minutes after 7 laps after 10 minutes. We're going to cover the inside once again. Now I am going to defend. Knowing that Roswell is here now anyway, I might as well start defending as much as possible and try to invite a fight between second and third. So if they wouldn't mind kindly battering the hell out of each other, then that would be awesome. And at the moment, they're not quite taking that invitation. We'll give it a couple of laps and hopefully they'll both be upside down in the barrier, but we'll see about that. Maybe they'll be a bit more sensible than that. So through this long right, down the hill then, crucial exit, because it does lead out into this straight, which leads into a good overtaking opportunity, which is at this 90-degree right-hander, big braking zone, and definitely a place to potentially go for a move. Once again, they're side by side, just look behind there. That's good for me. So I rebuff the overtake, and then typically within half a lap you can settle down again, and hopefully the guys behind will start fighting. That's typically how that situation goes. And we'll see if that is the case. Well, I mean, they are fighting at this point. Coming through the final corner then, onto the straight. I don't quite have that 3/4. In fact, no, I do. Look at that. I have nearly 9/10 of a second. So I'm out of slipstream range. This next lap is crucial. I just need to nail this lap. I need to sort of forget about them. They're not close enough at this point in time. I just need to nail this one. Imagine it's a qualifying lap. Roswell actually gets up into second place. And the gap goes up slightly, briefly there, to over a second. With 8 minutes left, things are hotting up. I do have a bit of a gap here, and I'm going to try and capitalise on this as much as possible. The more laps I can stay ahead without having anyone right behind me, that's good, because it just means less chance to be overtaken. So I just need to nail as many laps consecutively here as possible before potentially they start catching up. If they start fighting, then, well, they're sealing their own sentence here. But we'll see if they do that. They need to work together. They need to stop fighting each other if they want to have a chance of winning this race. But that's up to them, and we'll see what they decide to do. Into the final corner, lap number 9 coming to a close. 7 minutes remaining. The time is dwindling down. The 20 minutes does go quite quickly when you're in the heat of battle. And as we take a look at the exterior shot here, things going rather well, as they are going to be side by side once again, so they're only going to be slowing each other down. So that really doesn't look like they're working together as such. So that's good for me. They've probably lost a 10th or 2 doing that, so I'll quite happily take that. Just want to add a quick note to this video, a bit of a side note, that thank you so much we've raised over £25,000 for the Philippine School project after I did the 200 laps of Nürburgring. So I just want to say a massive thank you to anyone who supported me on that, who watched and who donated. Okay, back to the race. As we enter lap number 12, unfortunately I wasn't quite able to hold off Roswald. Over the course of lap 9, 10, 11, he was just tiny bit quicker, even if it's 1/10 or 2/10. That does add up over a couple of laps, and that's what happened. We got back in the slipstream, and so with just under 4 minutes remaining, we have company, and we have a challenger for the lead of this race, and I must do everything now to defend. So we're at the closing stages now. There's no need to start being all savvy with your tactics. It's just defend, basically. That is the tactic. Just defend every corner, don't let him pass at all, and try to do that until the end. That's basically all it is now. So through the 90-degree right, he actually goes over to the right hand side here, and I was very conscious of the cutback on this long left, and I actually took this corner too slow and completely mumbled it up on the apex, and quite frustratingly got myself a half-second penalty for actually going too slow, because I was too conscious of blocking the left-hand side on the exit. So that was a bit of a frustration. We're still just going to continue here, because you never know what might happen. I just need to stay in the lead, and again, if they start fighting, they might do something silly. They might I might be able to open up a gap. You just never quite know. So I'm going to stay to the left-hand side here, fully to the left. Make sure they go over to the right-hand side. But I got very lucky here, because my penalty served going into turn 1. So that was a massive piece of luck, and basically a get out of jail free card, and I get away with that penalty scot-free without actually losing any time. Fully defensive here into the infield. He was definitely going to go for that move. I just had to defend it. As close as that was, I think it had to be done, because we are now very close to the end of the race, and I'm not sure if this is going to be the penultimate lap or not, because the timer, if you remember, when we crossed the line with 10 minutes to go, I just exactly completed 7 laps, so we might have to do 15, we'll see. Down into the big braking zone, middle of the circuit again, going defensive. The 2 behind beginning to go side by side. Not having to defend this one. They are close, but I don't need to defend at this point in time. So lap 13 drawing to a close. The race drawing to a close. Roswald back into second. Tim Clark there in 4th. Sitting in a good position actually, because he can benefit from any mistakes, any fighting that goes on. he's in a prime position to capitalise. Onto the straight then. I'm going to move over to the right hand side to minimise the toe as much as possible. There's not much I can do really. I'm just going to have to accept that they are going to be in the toe. Now look at that, I crossed the line with 1 minute 26 left. The lap times were around about that, so I wasn't sure if this was going to be the final lap, but I think, because sometimes once the timer goes down to 0, then it says final lap and then you just finish the race. So I wasn't sure if this was going to be the final lap or not. Again, my main strategy is just defend, and just hope that the race does just finish. I mean, I sincerely hope that this is the final lap. Nathan go for a move there against Roswald, and it didn't quite pay off for him. They're side by side, but then Roswald will have the inside for his right-hander. That's good news. I'm going to have a bit of a gap there, as you can see. A couple of car lengths. Not quite out of slipstream range, unfortunately, but a bit of breathing room, and that's always good. We don't have to worry about defending into this one, as we have done on the previous couple of laps. Coming up the hill then, and it looks like Roswald is going to be our main challenger. Nathan actually dropping down to 4th at that point there, so it just shows you, if you go for a move, you have to make sure it's going to work, otherwise there's a very good chance you can actually lose positions. That's actually true in the Club 100 karting league, it's true in karting in general, true in most motorsports actually. You have to make sure your move sticks, so you have to be committed and make sure it's a move that you know you can complete, otherwise there's a very good chance you're going to lose rather than gain. Okay then, across the line we go. That was not the final lap, but this one is, so annoyingly we have to do a 15th lap, one which I wasn't expecting, and try to hold off Ryan, aka Roswald, for one more lap. Now strangely enough, the guys from 5th down did finish the race, so I would say that's a bit of a programming error, because in real life, you know, the person in first always has to complete the race first, and then everyone else finishes. But because they went over the line after the 20-minute timer, they finished their race. A bit of a weird one how that worked, but never mind. We have to defend half a lap longer. Nathan back into 3rd, Tim Clark down to 4th then, but that is irrelevant in our fight for the lead. I'm going to go fully defensive here, all the way to the inside, conscious of an undercut on the way out, and he is going to go to our right hand side. I'm going to force him wide onto the curb, and again conscious of the cutback on this corner. Very possible to get that move done, and thankfully it doesn't happen. 2 more corners remaining in this race. Coming up towards the final corner now then, through the long left onto the grass, and it's going to be a drag race to the line. It's a very, very long straight actually, down to this finish line, and it was at this point here that I really, really wanted to end it all, because it was a massive, massive error. Well, I don't know, was it? It looked like I took that corner rather normally, but Vietnam flashbacks intensify once again, and just like qualifying, I'm pipped to a win at the last possible moment. Let's have a look at it here from Roswell's perspective. He just takes a nice, slightly tighter line. I didn't take it awfully, but I didn't take it great, and that's all it was. I'm surprised he didn't go into the back of me. He could have easily have just gone into the back of me. He did well to avoid that, but wow, I'm so disappointed. I'm so sorry that I couldn't win that race for you, but we'll try and go one better in the upcoming races. But the main thing is that it was a good race, and even though the result was very disappointing, it was a good race, and I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts on it, and let me know how much of a bottle job I am. But that is the end of it. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. Take care. Goodbye.